Good morning, students. This is your teacher Neelam Elawat, and today we'll start with the next chapter, that is chapter number 1. And this also comes from the unit 1, that is diversity in the living world. So this will be our chapter, students. Okay, this is your unit number 1 that we'll be dealing and we'll be starting from today. So far we have done the chapter number 16 and chapter number 17. I hope you've understood, and if there is any doubt you can talk to me. Right, so we will start with this unit 1, and the chapter will be the living world. Okay, so your chapter will be living world. Clear? So today we'll start with unit 1 and the chapter 1, that is the living world. Now in this chapter we'll be dealing with what is living. Okay, we'll talk about what is living. Second is diversity in the living world. What are the different types of plants and animals which are present? Then the various taxonomic categories, and the last we'll talk about the taxonomical aids. Okay, dear students, we will talk about the taxonomical aids. Clear? So this is your chapter number 1, the living world. See, the characteristics of the living organisms. We know since from class 5th that what is the difference between the living world and the non-living world. We have been asked to differentiate what is living, what is non-living, isn't it? So gradually with age, we have understood the whole terms that living and non-living, they are quite different from each other. Okay, even a small kid can differentiate, right? So we will talk about the characteristics of the living organisms. There are 5 characteristics of the living organism. First is the growth. Second is the reproduction. Third is metabolism. Fourth is cellular organization. And fifth is a consciousness. So we'll talk about in detail, we'll take each characteristic separately. But we need to understand that our focus will be on the first 5 characteristics: growth, reproduction, metabolism, cellular organization and consciousness. Now coming to the growth. What do we call the growth? What is growth? Isn't it? So if we are talking about the living organisms, then increase in size, we may notice that the particular, you can say the object or the living organism is showing increase in mass. It is showing increase in number. Okay, it is showing increase in number. The cell is dividing, or it is undergoing division. The cell is showing cell division. The plants also show division, isn't it? Animals, see, in case of plants, it will divide continuously. Okay, so we were talking about in case of plants, the division occurs continuously, means they divide continuously. But in case of animals, this division, the cell division, it is restricted to a specific age. Now because of division, the old cells or the dead cells, they are continuously being replaced. Clear? Is it clear? When there is unicellular, see, when a single cell divides, that it will result in increase in number. Suppose we have a single cell and this cell divides. So we will have now 2 cells. So if there is one cell which is dividing, so that will result in increase in number of cells. Second is growth. Growth means, it basically means when there is increase in the body mass. Okay, if there is increase in the body mass, that is basically we are taking it as a growth. Okay, so if you look at the plant, if you look at yourself, isn't it? So if there is increase in body mass, we call it as growth. Okay, students? Now non-living things, they grow by accumulating of material on their surface. Okay, suppose if there are mountains, then continuously some amount of snow falls on them, some dust falls on them. Like in case of rivers also, some amount of soil gets deposited at the bottom, isn't it? So non-living things, they grow by accumulating materials on the surface. ठीक है. while living things grow through cell division, by increasing in their number, by increasing the mass, right? And the growth can be a defining property for non-living organisms. Now, if we take only growth, this cannot be a defining property for living organism. Means we cannot take growth, only growth, for setting our standards that particular substance is a living being, because growth is also seen in non-living organisms, right? Just now I've talked about mountains. They are also showing increase in amount of materials, isn't it? So it cannot be a separate material like this, right, students? Now, conditions when it is observed in living organisms are well explained. Now, when we are talking about the living organisms, right, when we are talking about the living organism, the growth occurs it occurs from the inside, right? It is a defining property in living organisms, but it is not the only sole criteria on which we can say that the organisms are living or non-living. Okay, dear students? Next comes the reproduction. See, what does the term reproduction means? Reproduction means that they are able to produce the organisms of their own type. Okay, so they are able to produce the organisms of their same type. Like you will see, cats, they produce kittens. Human beings, they produce human beings, isn't it? So this is called reproduction. Okay, so reproduction can be of two types. One could be the sexual reproduction, another could be a asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, we know only one organism is involved. In sexual reproduction, there are two organisms which are involved. Okay, dear students? Isn't it? There are two organisms which are involved. Okay. So reproduction basically involves two basic processes, that is sexual reproduction and the asexual reproduction. Now, unicellular organisms like amoeba, bacteria, they multiply and they increase in number, right? And they are thought to be involved in a asexual process, because asexual process means where there is only one cell is involved. There is only one parent which is there. So it is clear, right? Is it clear? Okay, so bacteria and amoeba and chlamydomonas multiply and they increase in number, and this we can term as a growth. So there is no clarity here in case of bacteria and amoeba, whether this should be called a reproduction or this should be called the growth. So in case of unicellular organisms, it's unclear regarding the growth and the reproduction. Now, many organisms, they do not multiply or they do not reproduce. That is, like your worker bee, there are certain human couples which remain infertile. Even after trying for number of times, they are not able to conceive. So hence we can say reproduction can also not serve as a definite criteria, or we cannot take solely reproduction a criteria for distinguishing the living and a non-living. Okay, we cannot define it as the only sole criteria. We can take it as a criteria, but not the only sole criteria. And living organisms, they do not reproduce at all. So you see, I have shown in the diagram, unicellular organisms. See, in here, unicellular organisms, they divide, isn't it? And so there is no clarity whether this is division or reproduction, right? Is it clear? In case of human beings, we have a sexual reproduction. Male and female, they produce gametes. These gametes then fuse together to form the zygote. The third characteristic is called the metabolism. Okay, dear students, the third characteristic is called the metabolism. Okay. See, we all know that all organisms, they are made up of certain chemicals. Okay, they're all made up of certain chemicals. These chemicals, they may be small or big. The chemicals may be small or big, isn't it? Right? And these chemicals, they are basically the biomolecules. Right? These are biomolecules which are made and changed to other molecules. See, our body can use those biomolecules or it can be converted into some other biomolecule, isn't it? Clear? And these conversion reactions, when we are converting one particular substance into the another, is called a metabolic reactions. Right, everyone? So the sum total of all various reactions which are occurring in the living organism, the sum total of all the reactions that are occurring, it is called metabolism. That is called metabolism. Okay, dear students? Non-living organisms does not have any metabolism. Okay, so non-living organisms do not have any metabolism. They do not have any metabolism. Okay, dear students? Now, the metabolic reactions that we are talking about, they can be demonstrated outside the body. Okay, they can be demonstrated outside of the body, and we call such as, like in test tube we can perform, in vitro they can also be done, right? And when they are being done outside the body, isn't it, in the test tube, so how can we say that we require a living organism for the metabolism? Isn't it? Is it clear? Clear? So we cannot categorize such reactions, whether they are occurring in living organisms, whether they are occurring in non-living organisms, right? So metabolism, in comparison to the reproduction and the growth, we can say is a far better criteria, right, for defining a living thing. Cellular organization, how cells are organized in a body, in a particular organism, that could be taken as a defining feature, right? That could be taken as a defining feature for all the living forms. That could be taken as a defining feature. Like for example, photosynthesis. We know that only plants can photosynthesize, and during the photosynthesis they prepare the material. So this process called anabolism. Anabolism means where smaller components are being joined to form a bigger component. So that is called anabolism, right? That is called anabolism. And when we are collecting the smaller components to form a bigger component, then anabolism. And when we are breaking down a bigger molecule into simple molecules, then we call it as catabolism. So metabolism contains two basic words, anabolism as well as catabolism, right? It contains two basic words, anabolism as well as catabolism. Okay, dear students? Coming to the next is consciousness. Okay, this is a feature. Consciousness means how conscious we are in terms of related with environment. How all living organisms are able to detect what is happening in their surroundings. See, organisms, they have their sense organs, and with the help of the sense organs, they come to know what is happening around us. Like eyes, they see, ears, they hear, right? Isn't it? Your skin feels. So your sense organs, they help us to know the things or the changes that are happening in our environment, right? So organisms, they sense through your sense organs. Plant, they respond to light, water, temperature, isn't it? And even to the pollutants. Plants also respond. See, plants respond to light because they have a definite photo period, isn't it? The definite amount of period they require for flowering, right? In case of plants and animals, we also have seasonal breeders, isn't it? Then humans, they are aware of itself. We know what we want, what we are seeing, how to respond, what to say, what not to say, isn't it? So we are aware what is happening around us, and this is because of our sense organs. So consciousness basically means the overall ability of organisms to detect. So we can use it as a defining property. So consciousness can be used as a defining property for the living organisms. Now see, I've shown you some pictures. This is a picture of Chui Mui plant, isn't it? When you touch the leaves of this plant, the leaves, they droop. Okay, the leaves, they droop. Okay, students? So when you touch the leaves of the plant, the leaves droop. So even the plants, they respond. Similarly, if you are having a hot pan, isn't it? Suddenly you will feel warm, and quite possible that the pan may fall from your hand. Okay, dear students? Okay. So this will be your homework for today. First of all, you will make notes of the topic and you will read the page numbers 3 to 5. Strictly, you only read your NCERT. NCERT is a must for you, everyone. Okay? Your NCERT is a Bible for you. So go through your NCERT. All the points that I've spoken about, they have been taken from the NCERT. So read each line of NCERT, underline, and if there is any doubt, any query that you have, you please talk to me. Okay, dear students? Okay? So bye everyone.